Okay, good evening, and I'm very, very sorry that this is an absolutely shit-house camera, and I'm hoping that I'll get a better one sooner. I don't think it helps that I'm recording this quite late at night. I think during the sunlight it might be a bit better. But anyway, um, today I'm going to talk about something I watched at RIAS, that's the Science Exchange, RIAS being the Royal Institute. I went there a couple of days ago and heard Randy Olson giving a talk called Telling Science Stories. That was really quite interesting. Um, he was arguing that scientists should be much better at telling stories. And people in the audience, some of the people in the audience were not quite in agreement, and I could understand their position. Uh, Olson was pushing the idea that, scientists must be better at telling stories, and it's something that they should be trained at, etc., etc. Others were saying, yes, telling science stories is important, but the scientists themselves, some of them, may not have the skill sets to be storytellers. Um, they may just want to focus on research, and you can't necessarily turn them into something that they're not. And I kind of agree with that. I think that more scientists should be good storytellers. The thing that is a real concern is not that some scientists aren't, but some scientists actually poo-poo the storytelling faculty. And this is a real problem, that they scorn what you might call popularizers of science, and that goes back a bit of a way, and really needs to be quashed, I think. I actually think that there is a kind of an ideology behind the kind of peer-reviewed papers that scientists have to put out, and it's an ideology of this is the unvarnished truth, and it has to be unvarnished, that is dull. It has to be, you take out all the adjectives, you take out any kind of storytelling, you just present the bare facts in as technical and as sort of exclusive a way as possible. Really keeping, it's like a door-keeping exercise. You keep out those people who haven't got the facility to understand all of the technical details. You sort of weed them out of reading the stuff. And it's a ridiculous ideology, and I think peer-reviewed papers could be more accessible, but we also should celebrate those scientists who are good at telling stories and who are good at selling science to the public. And Randy Olson also mentioned the appalling story of Carl Sagan, who is one of my heroes, certainly, who was denied election to a major position in science. I can't remember what it was, because there was too many scientists that were, not happy with the way that he was popularizing science. And there was a great deal of snobbishness, and it was a great insult to a great teacher and a great promoter of science. So that's just one example of how some scientists really have a strange attitude about the way science is presented to the public. And so scientists should recognize that storytelling is important. For me, I wouldn't know anything about science if it wasn't for the Carl Sagans of the world. So it's really important that this sort of thing, science journalism, is promoted, and that we have good scientists that are writing books and articles, blogs, etc., which are promoting science. For me, I just have a couple of books that I can present here. This is one by Richard Dawkins, The Ancestor's Tale. Great book, which tells you all about our evolutionary history, going right back 4 billion years. fantastic and comprehensive story of how we are all related to each other. This is another one that I've read recently. Antonio Damasio is a neurophysiologist, but also a great storyteller. This is about the relationship. This is about the relationship between emotion and reason, and how they are interlinked, and it looks into the neurophysiology of that. But it's a very, very interesting story, and of course it also promotes Descartes' error, that is the error of dualism. He takes a very materialist position. Carl Sagan, this is a wonderful book, can't get this right, it's called Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors, and it's one of the last books that he wrote with his wife Andriane, and a wonderful book, not so much about cosmology, actually it's largely about evolution, at least the first half of it, which I've read. And of course magazines like Cosmos, fantastic magazine, Cosmos, New Scientist, other magazines which promote science to a lay audience. Really, really important stuff that I think, and storytelling is really important in that. There are it's interesting because I come from an arts background, and I really was reading far more fiction, like 90% fiction, up until about 10 years ago, and now I read 90% non-fiction, but still I like story. My non-fiction is divided really between science and history, and the last book that I read was a historical book, a Simon Sharma book called Rough Crossings, full of fascinating stories and fascinating characters, which really brought to life the era of the American War of Independence and the way that black people were treated at that time. So stories are really important, and science should be in the business of telling stories as much as possible. Why not? Science has a fantastic story to tell, and I hope that it continues, or that it tries to tell it in a better way than it has in the past. Although there have been some great storytellers amongst the scientists, and may that continue. See you later.